Thank you for joining us today to hear more on our topic, getting ahead in the race for early talent, what social care providers should do. Next slide, please, Dave. I'm Amanda Marquez. I'm an owner and director of Cohesion. And with me today from Cohesion is Dave Beasley, our social care talent director. And for those of you who may not know us well, we deliver recruitment and workforce solutions across all care settings, which puts us in a really strong position to share data and insights with you. And we regularly host social care forums like this in order to share best practice and discuss topical issues. And what can be more topical than considering how we develop the much needed social care workforce of the future? This is very close to our heart at Cohesion. While we run the recruitment function for some of the largest care providers in the UK, we also manage apprenticeship, graduate, and other early talent campaigns across sectors. So we regularly see the disparities between how other sectors are embracing new ways of reaching out and engaging with younger candidates and what's happening in social care. That being said, we have some giants from the social care industry with us today to share how they're ensuring that Gen Z features front and centre in their workforce strategies. Rob Martin joins us from Anchor, one of the largest UK providers of housing and care homes for older people. Anchor operate in a staggering 85% of the councils in England, and they have a really positive story to tell about young people coming into social care. We're also joined today by Natasha Eden, Director of the Care Academy for Cornwall Care. Natasha will be sharing how Cornwall Care, which is the largest independent provider of care in Cornwall, has forged a partnership with the Cornwall College Group in order to develop much needed talent for the future. And Natasha is also joined by Kate Wills, Deputy Principal for Group Curriculum and Quality. However, as ever, a few housekeeping notes. Zoom's stolen my thunder, so the event is being recorded. We will distribute a link and the slides later. Could you all please go on mute during the webinar unless you're speaking? We will collect and ask questions at the end of the presentation. So if you could put your name and organisation in the chat so that we can refer to you appropriately, that would be excellent. Next slide, please, Dave. Great. So the numbers related to young people in the sector haven't really changed, even pre-pandemic. 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, and I'm not expecting a huge change in 2022. The Skills for Care report all show less than 10% of the adult social care workforce under the age of 24. And again, we haven't seen much change between that balance of men and women in the workforce. Less than 20% of the adult workforce overall is male. And the average age of a frontline worker is actually creeping up, mid-40s, 46 last year. Now, social care isn't the only sector struggling to recruit. There have been some very well-documented issues even over the Easter break and the recent bank holidays. But our needs are growing. And we believe at Cohesion that engaging with a younger audience will deliver much needed new talent to the sector. Next slide, please, Dave. Not only will engaging with young people deliver that much needed talent, but it will stop us all fishing in the same pond amongst similar demographics. Now, the quotes that you see on the screen are from students currently studying health and social care at Harlow College. We've been working with them over the course of the year, and we sent a survey out a few months ago and found that of a sample size of 165 respondents, 50% of those that responded were working in retail rather than social care. And these are students studying health and social care. 20% of them couldn't find a job in social care because they didn't have a year's experience. And 40% didn't know why care was rewarding, which was a real shocker for us. But turns out that was because they hadn't had the opportunity to go into a service during the last 2 years while they've been studying through the pandemic. But really disappointing to hear that that they're being rebuffed and their interest is being turned away. So I guess values-based recruitment isn't quite as embedded as we may think it is. So I hope that's a really good demonstration of the opportunity that exists. There are young people all around the country studying health and social care, interested in the sector, who are genuinely struggling to get jobs. Next slide, please, Dave. Now, we're going to share a few recommendations now on how you can engage with young people now, ahead of handing over to our speakers. So first things first, Care Home at Open Week is very nearly upon us. So it's coming up at the end of this month. Next slide, please, Dave. And Care Home Open Week is all about connecting with your local community. And the ambassadors have worked really hard to create easy toolkits. So Care Home Open Week is run and managed by volunteers and championing social care. There's no cost associated in taking part, and there are a number of easy toolkits for participation on the website. So we'd really encourage you to consider it, if not for this year, then maybe for next year, as it's a wonderful way to spread the message of fantastic people that are supported across all the services that you operate, and fantastic opportunities that exist that actually people don't always know about, and the great teams that you have in place. Next slide, please, Dave. Cohesion have worked with Dawson Walker Communications, Harlow College, as I've mentioned, and a group of advisory clients with a view to launching a campaign to encourage more young people into the sector in part-time jobs to help to build our funnel for the future. Step into Social Care will launch this summer, along with a toolkit for employers and the ability to post jobs without charge on our job board, Care and Support Jobs. Our next webinar forum will be focusing again on attracting youth to the sector, but we will hear from a nationwide youth charity. We'll hear more from Harlow College and some of their students, and also from members of the advisory group who will talk specifically about the campaign. So watch this space in weeks to come. Okay, and a very quick note, in the meantime, Care and Support Jobs remains a resource that you can all use to create a company profile, share more about why it's great to work for your organisation, and also post any jobs that you might have now. So if you'd like to get in touch and you haven't already done that, please reach out to us and we'll help you to set that up.
Good morning, everyone. Great to see so many people here this morning, and a couple of people I've had an opportunity to meet before, but lots of new faces as well. So can I have the next slide, please? So what I want to talk a little bit about today is the way that we've considered at Cornwall Care reframing our clinical workforce in care, and how that's helping us to think a little bit around progression for those who are already in our organisation, but also the attraction element to getting new and different people to consider care, and slightly different routes into the organisation than those that we've had before. Next slide, please. So as the slide says, I'm Natasha Eden, I'm Director of the Care Academy. There's lots of use of the word Care Academy, I suppose, across our industry. So I thought it was just worth me explaining very quickly what we're trying to achieve with our Care Academy. So our objective is to ensure learners, those that are new into care or already employed, receive training via experiential and innovative delivery methods to help them achieve their career ambitions. We're trying to improve across the sector the quality of training and the consistency of that delivery, and the accessibility to that training as well, because there's, as we know, great inequalities in terms of how people are able to access that training. We cater for all jobs within the care providers, not just clinical positions. As Rob was saying, I think that's something that we're all having to consider a lot more of. Care is not delivered just by those in clinical positions, and none of our care services would run without all those support roles. And a key focus for us has been on using technological developments in the workforce, not just in the way that the training's developed. Our academy is funded largely through higher education and further education funding routes, with really specific college and university partners. Obviously, we'll speak most specifically about our relationship with Cornwall College Group today. But we're also speaking to other funding providers whose criteria and eligibility match our aims. So that's meaning that we're having to be really entrepreneurial in terms of who we consider going and having conversations with, what research projects we get involved in. And it's a really, strong focus for us in terms of income driver as well. So we hope that the income that we're going to be able to create from the academy in the coming years will be profits that we can reinvest into the charity. As Amanda said, Cornwall Care is the largest service care, social care provider in Cornwall, but we're also the largest charity. We provide care to circa 800 Cornish residents, be that in our 13 care homes or in the community, and we have a team of around 1,200 people delivering that care. So it's really important to us to be considering how the academy can contribute towards Cornwall Care, be that through income, or also, which I'll come on to discuss a little bit later, a reduction in agency costs, as well as we improve our own workforce development and provide a pipeline of talent. We obviously hope that this is going to be something we can grow in the county of Cornwall, but really excitingly for us is what we can consider doing in the future as well. So we'll get into a little bit more of the detail now, if I can. Next slide, thank you. So the area I wanted to focus on today is growing gaps in the nursing provision in Cornwall, but more widely in social care. As we know, we might not be the first industry that someone that comes through as nursing would consider as where they want to be able to spend their time and energies. And there's been limited opportunities for nurses when they do come into the social care industry, but also for senior carers to be recognised for skills and ongoing routes for them if they don't wish to train to be nurses. So sort of a push and pull that we've got there really around nursing in social care. Most specifically, we see it down here in our county because we are a peninsula. So it's very hard for us to tap into other counties and other areas which might have a stronger nursing bank. So we are somewhat on our own down here. So we're having to solve this problem ourselves. Next slide, please. So I don't think anyone on here is not going to know about the situation that we find ourselves in. This is something that's common to all of us, but a couple of things I think that were worth calling out. So obviously we've spoken already about the vacancies that we're seeing in social care, plus the fact that we're struggling then to place those who are training in social care into those vacancies. But if you look specifically at something like nursing, we've lost 17,000 nurses in just in 7 years. That's a huge drop off in terms of nurses. Some of that is obviously people that have retired earlier. Some of that is burnout, as we know from the last couple of years. But I think in general we can't sustain that loss of nurses without us thinking about new ways to backfill those roles. Alongside that, then we obviously have increasing numbers of people needing care home beds to meet the aging population and also growing acuity. So when we're thinking about how we're doing development with the college, we're having to really think about what the care needs are for tomorrow rather than just the care needs of today. When I look across our care homes, the individuals that we are providing care to now are very different to those even 5 years ago in terms of their age, the demographics, and the different things that people are needing when they come in. It's amazing how many of our carers now are supporting our residents with their use of technology because they're coming in with their own technology and they want to continue to be able to use that. So these are skills that we wouldn't have considered carers would have needed to be able to support residents with, but it's all part of enriching lives and ensuring that people are as close to a home atmosphere as they can be. Alongside this, then, we obviously have agency costs continuing to increase. So the average increase last year was over 12% in costs. So whilst we're seeing a permanent workforce in care leaving, we are obviously seeing increased costs in backfilling those roles from agencies. And there's decreasing confidence as well as we know, CQC are a stakeholder who, we all work alongside and we all, learn from and work with. But we know that low staffing numbers combined with high agency reliance does have proven worst outcomes for those receiving care. So it's a critical problem for us to try and resolve. Next slide, please. So what have we done then? We've tried to think differently about it. So person-centered care obviously needs to remain key alongside an integrated care model. So we're moving to an integrated care system down in the county, and that's been a really great opportunity for us to think about our strategic relationships, most critically those with Cornwall College. And we've done that in a number of ways with Kate and her team, be that placements, be that banks for us to build staffing from their young learners so that they can get an early introduction into the care homes. As Amanda was saying, we've had 2 years of very little exposure for social care learners to be able to actually get into a care home. And what I'm going to focus on in this is our AP program as well, so the assistant practitioner program. What we've seen is that this is a new way of working that's giving us greater consistency of care and improved outcomes. But as we know, that all reflects really strongly in terms of job satisfaction and retention as well. And it's also seen a reliance on external interventions. So therefore, our relationships with those other members of the integrated care system are really improving as well. Next slide, please. So our future model that we've been discussing with our commissioners over the last 3 years sees a blended model of nurses and assistant practitioners working together in our care homes. So at no point would we be leaving an assistant practitioner in a nursing home without a nurse there with them. But what we're doing is we're supplementing that with a virtual nursing ward as well, which means that we've been able to offer our nurses an opportunity to understand how to how they can develop their skills as well. I've just seen that question pop up. No, this isn't just about our care homes. We're also doing this in the community as well, because this has been a key thing for us in terms of how we integrate our care services. So this aligns really well with the community. What we're doing is our staffing is beginning to move a lot more between those two elements of our organisation, because the AP model that we've got are people that are being trained both in community roles and in care home roles. And what we're finding is that, as we all know, the skills in the community have always been very different to those skills that have been needed in the care homes. But with the virtual nursing ward, they have an ability to be able to get in touch with somebody very quickly that's not the district nurse, that's not an external intervention, but can offer that support as well. So what I've put on the screen here is just how we're doing it within the home, but that virtual expert nurse team also taps into our community teams as well, so that they always have somebody to speak to. As I said, we found that this has reduced unplanned admissions and it's increasing job satisfaction as well with our staff that are working in these ways. Next slide, please. So I keep talking about our assistant practitioners, and this has been the key element really for us to be able to move forward with this. So whilst we only had final approval from our commissioners in recent weeks, we started investing in this programme years ago, most specifically in the last 3 years when we've really been growing our relationship with Cornwall College, and 2 years ago when we started putting our first cohorts through the level 5 apprenticeship. We're a bit where Rob was talking about where Anchor were a number of years ago in terms of the numbers that we're putting through the programs at the moment. We're seeing a small increase each time, but we're really finding that the development of those individuals as they're coming through has been really critical. So as I said, our relationship with Kate and the college has been absolutely key. They're a partner for us in this rather than just a training delivery element of how we're doing this. And we take a really strategic and tactical approach to all of our work together. So that means that as we're hearing about things that need to change within the community or within our homes in terms of the service we're delivering, we're talking about that to the college as our apprenticeship provider. The lead time we've had to consider for recruitment onto these programs has been really important as well. We're bringing in people at the moment who are currently in our own workforce, but our next cohort will have people who are in other providers' workforces and also people joining care for the first time as well through the AP program. And what we need to do is make sure that we've had really strong entry requirements for that, because it's a program that people have to work hard to get through. So we've needed to ensure that we have buy-in and expectation setting. So at the moment, we're having to consider, in February, the September cohort, to make sure that we've got everybody really lined up and really ready to go, which again is just a little bit different to how we've thought about learning and development previously. But then the feedback from those that are on the courses is just been a joy to hear. The development opportunities that people have been able to find from it. A large number of the people that joined our first cohort, this is their first return to education since they were 16, 17. And they have really embraced being back in the college, learning atmosphere again, with Kate's team supporting them through their clinical skills, and then coming back into the community and into our homes to continue to develop those skills. The feedback from residents and families has also been absolutely amazing in terms of how they are feeling that the APs in their apprenticeship role at the moment can support, and our other stakeholders across the care system as well have been really feeding back really positively. Next slide, please. So as everybody, we have multiple stakeholders that we've needed to bring along with us on this, and we've just had to keep on going through that, I think. So over the last 3 years, we've continued to inform people when it was just an idea, when we started the strategic partnership with the college, when it moved then to having our first cohort. So it's just been a constant reiteration of the information for that, and providing assurance the whole way through. So there's no point us talking in very general ways about what roles APs are going to play in the clinical delivery. We've had to be really specific about what clinical skills they're getting, how that's going to be tested, how we're going to continue to test it, just to ensure that really we can take all of our stakeholders with us. But what that's done is really created advocates of what we're doing as well. So it's brilliant. We turn up to meetings now and we hear other people talking about the AP program. We've got other providers that are now really excited to join the cohorts that we're going to do this year and early next year. And we will more than double the number of people that we're putting through that in the next year because of those advocates that we've created. We've not had to go out and really do a hard sell to get people to do that because it's been trickling through in the last couple of years. So finally from me, there's obviously a number of different things that we can do to tackle the challenges that we're all facing in social care. Can I just have the last slide? Sorry, thank you. And there's a number of those things that don't come down to our recruitment, as we all know. So a stabilisation of funding to help us all meet the extra costs that we're finding. Really practical support and advice from commissioners. We're getting a lot from the integrated care system in terms of how we all work together. Community support and mobilisation. Our volunteer project actually brings new recruits into our organisation because people get to do a little bit of try before you buy in terms of seeing what working with the services is like. Collaboration with local health partners. We do find GPs referring staff into us throughout the county. The ongoing and unquestionable personal dedication of our care staff, carers, and the resilience of those individuals as well. But really critically has been the relationships to understand the issues and develop shared solutions. So in the work we're doing with the college, that really is co-production. This is not about, arm's length partnerships and relationships. So that's the perfect point, I think, for me to hand over to Kate, who, as Amanda said, is the Vice Principal at Cornwall College. And our AP programme would be nothing of what it is today without Kate and her team's support. So over to Kate.
Hello. So yeah, as Natasha said, I'm Kate Wills and I'm the Vice Principal at Cornwall College Group. And just to give you an idea of scale, we're the third largest college group within the country. And so we've got 10 campuses that are spread predominantly over Cornwall, although we do have a campus in Devon as well, near Exmouth. And interestingly, I guess for myself, I've been involved in the delivery of care for many years now. I'm a registered nurse by trade and have maintained my registration throughout. And I think that's probably led to my heart continuing to be wanting to be involved in health and social care, whichever college I'm involved with. So the work I'm doing with Cornwall in terms of the assistant practitioner is work that I have done previously in a range of other localities in London, in South Devon in particular, and still continue to link in with, just to maintain the integrity of that assistant practitioner role. But really what I wanted to do is just have a look at the role that further education can play in terms of the social care agenda. Because one of the things that's really critical about further education is recognising the access we have to a whole range of different age groups and a whole different range of stages that people will be in their education and in their career. I think it's fair to say that there is opportunity at all of those stages for integration into the care sector. And I think what's worked particularly well with our relationship with Cornwall Care is that true integration. So whilst we are a college and whilst we are a care organisation that are managed and led separately, working together, even in terms of sharing staffing, means that that vision and that ethos remains the same. And so as a college, we recognise the importance of that person-centred care. So when we're planning, when we're looking at what our delivery models will look like, it truly is based on what care needs rather than what we think it needs. So in terms of the types of provision, one of the things that colleges do really well is work with pre-16s. So students that are still in school and for whatever reason want to engage with further education. Now, this might be through more social activity, through clubs, and actually trying to explore different vocations. So for example, we run programs for pre-16s, which just starts to enable them to think about the type of career that they might want to work in. So trying working with people or working with children just to see whether that's a skill they might want to explore. Often our biggest business within further education is 16 to 18 study programs. And yet this can be one of the most difficult to engage with social care and actually with healthcare as well, because it's very difficult to describe what social care looks like. And at the same time, realistic placements can also be a challenge. Now, what's worked really well with us with Cornwall Care is a true integration of placements for our 16 to 18-year-olds. So our students have uniforms that match the suite of uniforms that Cornwall Care have. So when our students go into placement, they feel part of that team. They feel established and they've got a key contact that they can work with. We actually also have Cornwall Care staff that are based on the college campus. So very much the students get used to seeing those staff, from managers to care deliverers to education trainers. So it becomes part of the norm, because actually for many 16 to 18-year-olds, and particularly post-pandemic, their social interaction, their ability to talk to others and be in spaces has really been affected, and they are much more nervous and much more anxious than they've ever been before. So it's about preparing for them for those skills. Adult learning, my goodness, is an absolutely untapped market within further education. So further education colleges are awarded finances from central government in order to fund adults. And actually, sometimes it's really difficult to spend that money because it's hard for us to capture the right people. So by working with Cornwall Care or other care providers, we're able to provide a whole suite of qualifications that can be short courses, so very specialist courses. So for example, around infection prevention and control, around dementia care, through to full level 2 and full level 3 diplomas. So it's really, really worth exploring adult learning in terms of seeing what opportunity there is there. Apprenticeships, really critical, a whole range of different providers that will offer apprenticeships, from private training providers through to further education colleges, and really is about, I think, for a provider, working with the institution or the private training provider that provides what they need at that time, because there'll be a whole different range of delivery methods. Very much the method we've chosen is still to bring in our students face to face. So with our level 5 programme, what's been really critical is the establishment of a cohort. So we don't do roll on, roll off for this programme. We have a cohort that meets every 2 weeks. Amazingly, the first cohort actually started in the COVID-19 lockdown, and we've maintained a 97% attendance rate on that provision, which I've never known in health and social care for adult provision. And they are such a dedicated group. I teach on that programme, I assess on that programme, as do staff from Cornwall Care. And we do that in a combined way to ensure that those practitioners not only are academically ready for progression, but also clinically competent. And then higher education, we often forget that there is that opportunity for higher education within FE, and certainly the level 5 sits within that suite of degree level qualification. And actually from the level 5, students can progress on to nursing should they wish to do so. So it does provide that career route for organisations where they still need and desire that registered nurse route within their framework for workforce. And I know that that's something that Cornwall Care will want to support moving forward in terms of adult nursing, but also in terms of mental health. If you could just flip over to the next slide. And really, there's just some key information there that I think it's really important that people are aware of. The first thing is the changing landscape. So some major governmental guidance coming through at the moment. So we've got the Skills for Jobs white paper. And what this does is it opens up far more opportunity for funding, for people that are wanting to change sector or entering into the sector. So really critical to understand this Skills for Jobs white paper. And through that, there's a whole plethora of opportunity. For example, the Multiply project that's coming through, which is about upskilling individuals in numeracy, but in the workplace. So colleges and training providers being able to go into workplaces to provide upskilling around numeracy. And what's brilliant is that doesn't have to be qualification based. It might be that there are very specific areas that people need support with in terms of their numeracy, for example, medication administration, and actually providers will be able to provide very specific workshops around that to provide upskilling for the workforce. Local skills improvement plans, again, critical. This will be about employer boards being set up around social care, around healthcare, and they will have to drive what providers do. So rather than me telling provision what I want to do, we will be told very much by social care what's needing to happen. And then qualification reform. And by 2024, the plan is that there will only be 3 routes post GCSE, and that will be apprenticeship, T-level, and A-level. Now, the really concerning thing that we need to be aware of is at the moment, there is no T-level that combines social care. So actually the only route at 16 at the moment would be an apprenticeship. And what we know is that at 16, for many individuals, an apprenticeship would be very challenging within social care because of the nature of the type of work that needs to be undertaken. So it's really important from a provision point of view of understanding these reforms coming through, because they will have a really big impact on the sector. In terms of opportunities, I would really encourage you to look at understanding what the needs are of the organisation and working with colleges and independent training providers in terms of taster events. What we find is engagement with young people in particular, coming in and trying it, coming in, meeting with people that work in the sector and understanding their background and what they do and how their work looks like. And also look at adult funding. There are brilliant opportunities to engage through tasters, through qualifications, just to give people a trial of what that looks like and what that feels like. Challenges still remain about changing perceptions. Social care isn't an easy sell unless you understand it. And so we really do utilise our students in order to talk to other students about social care. So my level 5 cohorts come in and work with my level 2 and level 3 16 to 18-year-olds to talk about the reality and really talk about some of the challenges and what's really hard, but also the rewards and the benefits. And we found that so positive. Also, one of the things that's really interesting is on the level 5 programme, the students have to do a research project. And one of the level 5 students has done this amazing piece of research around the use of robotic pets to try and reduce the need of antipsychotic medications in dementia care. And they were able to come in and talk about that project to young people that had no idea that could form a component of a career in social care. So really trying to move away from this idea of social care being a job that potentially doesn't have that opportunity for progression. Meaningful work experience, so important, and employers recognising that for 16 to 18-year-olds coming on work experience is terrifying, particularly because they've pretty much in many cases had 2 years in a bedroom, so their social interaction is really challenged. So finding ways to engage on work experience. One of the things that we found work really well is specific projects where you'll take a group of young people into a care setting to run a particular project. that might be around making memory blankets, for example. That might be around reading. So actually it's improving the literacy of our learners, but also engaging residents and providing them with that social interaction. But I think most importantly, it's understanding the sector. You do. What's important as educationalists, we do, is truly understand what's needed so that we can flex our curriculum accordingly. And I think that's what's worked with Cornwall Care. Cornwall Care being honest with us about their challenges in terms of releasing staff, about running provision online and face-to-face to meet the needs of the service. Hence, we could keep going through the pandemic without any concerns, but also thinking about actually what's coming next and future-proofing and not being scared to challenge. I never thought I would see an organisation that really has the, I don't know what the right word is, the confidence to challenge the CQC and to challenge social care by saying, we want to do things differently. And I think for me, that integration and that challenge has got us to the point where we are now. Happy to answer any questions when we get to that point, but thanks very much for listening.
So yeah, I think within Anchor, so in Anchor we have 114 care homes and 1,500 retirement housing locations across England. Within that, we also have a number of villages, independent living, and some home care services as well. So when I talk about the value of apprenticeships, it's the value of apprenticeships across the whole of the portfolio. And we absolutely use these apprenticeships across a number of different roles. But the bigger picture for me is about this challenge to professionalise care, and about the fact that in Anchor we take that very seriously. We take our role and our responsibility within that very seriously indeed. And there's a number of initiatives, including apprenticeships, that we are focused on, that we deliver in order to work towards that goal, which is the professionalisation of care. It is a recognised career choice. So we invest heavily in a number of ways. One of the things we do is pay the real living wage for our care workforce. We have a grow your own initiative, so we really put a lot of value in developing people internally and developing them up through the structure into key leadership roles. We also have a very successful leadership academy as well, which it really does make sure that people get the opportunities and can see the opportunities to grow within the organisation as well. But I'm going to hone in on the value of apprenticeships today. And one of the things Anchor have done is we're what I consider to be quite an early adopter of apprenticeships. And our apprenticeship programme at Anchor started back in 2015 with 15 young apprentices aged 16 years plus, and come into a number of different roles, including care, catering roles, and also some of the more administrative roles that support care homes. We're now up to just about 500 apprentices that have been through our programme. So if you just switch slides, please, move to the next slide. Thank you. So, we take the apprenticeship programme and we've developed it over the last several years to the point now where we would typically get 100 new apprentices every time through our apprenticeship programme. So it's what we consider to be a very successful programme. And one of the things that I try and reference is the fact that within our apprenticeship programme, we see a commercial aspect to this. We see a real value in investing in apprenticeships and investing time and effort into making them feel really special, to make them really appealing, and to really, encourage people to see that they make a difference for them personally, but also to the services that we provide. And we see the real value in it because we are starting to see the reward that we get several years in now from having those apprenticeship programs and seeing how those people progress within our organisation. So yeah, and next slide, please. Thanks. So how do we do it? I mean, first and foremost, we use the government apprenticeship levy scheme, and it is worth looking it up if you haven't come across this already. It's really important. It helps fund the apprenticeships, but also means that we are connected to 15 different training providers that deliver across the country for us, delivering those apprenticeship standards from the entry level at level 2 all the way up to the higher degree level at level 7, which of course has just been covered off incredibly well in great daily detail in terms of that experience, Kate. So the so our entry-level apprenticeships consist of apprenticeships at care assistant level, care and assistance, housekeeping, and customer service practitioner. And people that come to us have very little experience. They will join fresh. I think one of the big questions that I get asked quite regularly by other providers is this challenge around introducing a 16-year-old into a care environment. It is really important that we get that absolutely right, and that people, our care homes need to volunteer to bring in apprentices and have the capacity and capability to do so. And what's really important is that people recognise that it is possible and it can be done. We know that there are clearly higher standards in terms of and guidance very specific to bringing under 18s into a care environment, but the value that they can contribute, even with those higher standards that we will have to meet and work to, it's worth the additional effort and challenge. So it is really important to work in a supervised environment, and it is really important that when our apprentices join us, that they feel safe and secure in that environment and can make an active contribution with the personal care aspect. And again, even with the personal care aspect, there's a lot they can learn under supervision with good support in those areas. So our apprentices typically join us for a fixed term contract period of between 15 and 18 months, depending on the length of apprenticeship standard. But they do have an opportunity to apply for permanent positions, usually within 6 to 8 months within post. We have a really good success rate and conversion rate in terms of apprentices staying on with us and taking on full-time employment. So, really good shape in that front as well. Can you move to the next slide, please? So the value to the organisation. I mean, recruiting apprentices is one of the best ways, in my view, to develop a motivated and skilled workforce. The apprenticeships can be adapted to meet the needs of the business, develop skills and knowledge relevant to their job role. And obviously it supports us with our vacancies to reduce our vacancies within the business. So one of the things as well is attracting people, early career candidates. They bring something fresh, they bring fresh ideas and new ways of working, and they bring an energy that I find quite exciting personally. I have lots of experience of witnessing apprentices grow within our care homes. And what I can say is that these people do go on to become our team leaders, and in some cases, even into the management roles. And what they bring, that energy and enthusiasm, and they don't carry any bad habits with them as well. So we have an opportunity to train them fresh and get them to a good standard, and to a standard that we aspire to. And just taking us back to that point about professionalism, these become incredibly professional and career-focused individuals. So really worthwhile. Just a couple of examples from me. So we had a catering apprentice that joined us quite early on in the apprenticeship programme, and that individual has gone on to win the Chef of the Year competition. Worked their way through the finals and do incredibly well, and have so much success in their role. Now, for a lot of people, that would be an opportunity for them then to go and explore other career avenues and move on. But because we offer the development, the internal development and growth, that individual's truly committed to staying with Anchor and continuing their journey with Anchor for as long as possible, which I think it's really important that we don't just offer them the apprenticeship, we offer them the next stage beyond apprenticeship as well, and that they can see that at the point of entry, at the point where they make a decision to come and join us over somewhere else. It really does, as a programme, promote higher staff engagement. So, we see that we've got better retention through our apprenticeship programme than any other recruitment route that we undertake. Another interesting story actually is that we had a child who come to our West Halls care home in West Byfleet when it first opened in 2012, and this person was at school age at the time, and that person returned to us several years later to inquire about an apprenticeship, and now works as a full-time carer within our West Hall care home. Now, when we talk about the ambition of professionalisation of care, that's absolutely what I'm talking about. I'm talking about young people looking at care as a profession, and aspirationally looking at it to say, I want to make a difference. I want to grow up to become a care worker, or someone who's going to contribute and make a difference within that care environment. And so, seeing that being played out and seeing that being lived out is a sign of where we're going. And I think we've got a long journey to go. I think there's a lot more work to do within the care sector. I think public opinion clearly needs to shift, but certainly we're seeing those early signs, those early grass shoots in terms of more and more younger people considering care as a meaningful occupation. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Thanks. So one thing I wanted to just draw your attention to is communication is incredibly important, and it was referenced earlier on by Natasha in terms of the how we communicate with a young workforce and how much that young workforce has changed and evolved. And Amanda referenced that as well about her conversations with younger people and how they prefer to interact. So one of the key steps forward for us was to introduce a Facebook-style workplace where people can engage in conversation, share ideas, where we can form meaningful groups. And so in particular reference to apprenticeships, our workplace group allows our apprentices to have a closed group and a safe forum where they can share their experiences of their apprenticeship and actually get ideas, get suggestions, get help and advice wherever they need it. But it's also a chance for us within the organisation to really promote the apprenticeship programme in such a positive way by hosting things like apprenticeship awards, by promoting success within the apprenticeships and encouraging more of our care homes and more of our home care services and other services within Anchor to engage with the apprenticeship programme and look to take on apprenticeships as well. So we really look for buy-in on this, and we look for everybody to buy in on it to be able to move it forward. So we do find Workplace to be a fantastic tool, and we do not struggle to get people to engage on this. And what's so unique about it is that an apprentice could have a conversation with me on Workplace, a bit like Facebook, could comment on my post, and vice versa, I can comment on their post. And the power in doing that, it breaks down a lot of barriers. Giving someone a like, giving them a comment or a word of support makes all the difference, makes them feel so much more connected to the organisation and more connected to the role that they undertake and what they undertake, and feel valued in what they do. So I really do recommend using Workplace as a tool to be able to bring people together, particularly around apprenticeships. So we can move to the final slide. So I just wanted to sort of finish off by saying that, look, at Anchor, we're really proud of our apprentices, and it's an important part of our business plan within our 4 Mores to have more opportunities for colleagues. And that for me means that we have a desire to retain by offering career routes and opportunities within the organisation. And this all starts with apprenticeships. So getting the apprenticeships right hasn't been easy. It's needed a lot of effort at a local and national level, but the results are very much worth the effort. So as an organisation, we might be not for profit, but we're constantly measuring value. And as a key measure, one of the things we say is we're spending that money in the right way. Is it really making a difference for our residents that live with us? And the answer when it comes to the apprenticeships is that yes, absolutely we are. And we have a highly engaged and motivated workforce, and that's critical to delivering great services to those that live with us. So, you know, our apprentices have shown themselves to be highly engaged and motivated at what they do. And you know, I've showcased them through this presentation and examples of these people. And what you will have noted through the presentation is a lot of smiling, a lot of happiness and joviality, and that's what carries into the workforce. You know, these people bring an energy and an enthusiasm that we don't see through many of our other recruitment routes to such an extent. And so yes, I think I just wanted to summarise by saying that it really is high value and worth engaging with. Thank you.
And unmuted without having to be told. Rob, thank you so much. You know, it was really noticeable, the very wide smiles and happy faces on your slides. That was phenomenal. And we did have a couple of questions as we went through, but as the giants of the industry, the three of you are, you covered off most of the questions as we went. So there was a question around retention of apprentices, and Rob, you mentioned, thank you, that it was your best area of retention amongst this audience. We had a question specifically about engagement and support beyond the typical mentors and buddies and workplace team support. And that was you really brought that to life, what that Facebook group looks like, and I can see why that would be really, really attractive to your apprentices and particularly your young learners. I was also going to ask, maybe the only thing that we haven't covered, and this is to all of our speakers, how have you brought your care managers on this journey of hiring young people? Did you meet any resistance? Was there anything, if you could all maybe give us just one thing that you've done or one issue that you had to overcome, or maybe there weren't any, what would they be? And Natasha, I know you need to go in a moment, so don't worry. That's to you then, Rob. Sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine. You know what? I will start by saying, of course, there was resistance.
Of course, there was.
They are very busy people in very busy roles. I've been a registered manager personally, and so understand those pressures and understand what that means. And so that point about using Workplace is one of the forums to share success stories, share the value of these things, bring people on the journey. You know, I could have gone down two routes, and one of the routes would have been to force or thrust apprenticeships upon homes, and actually it would fail at the first hurdle, because if we haven't got that buy-in from the homes and if they are not ready and capable of supporting apprentices, it's never going to work. And that's your single biggest challenge. But I think give them the tools, make it as easy as possible, give them a support network. So have apprenticeship leadership within the core of your service, or identify someone within the service, not even the home manager, just someone that can lead on that's got an enthusiasm for it. And that's where you get the win. And when you can share a success story of one where it happens and it works really well, then
brilliant.
That's the route in.
Brilliant, thank you. Well, look, we often talk about the image of the sector. Kate, you talked about it really eloquently, gathering people, bringing them in, winning over hearts and minds to social care. I hope we've done that with our audience today. And I think all three of our speakers have demonstrated really well what an opportunity it is to engage with young people. You've done loads of myth busting, and people are talking about light bulb moments, which is exactly what we wanted out of this session. But equally, you know, young people, as you said, they've gone through the pandemic, They've got unemployment rates nearly 3 times higher than the average in the country. So I hope this has sparked as many people as possible to go away and consider how they can do school outreach or engage with young people. One last tout. It's so heartwarming to hear your story of the young person who came into your home, Rob. Clearly supports my promotion of Care Home Open Week, doesn't it? And opening up of other services. But for those of you that haven't come across it, Jenny Mack has written a fantastic book, which is called When I Grow Up, I Want to Be a Carer. So maybe something to look at, maybe something to leave in receptions of your services, or when you do any school outreach that's going on. So we will be sharing a recording and the slides of the session. I'm going to thank all of our speakers once again. I'm going to thank all of you for attending. If an hour seems to fly by when we have such great content to listen to, but if anybody wants to carry on that conversation, happy to signpost to Rob and Kate and Natasha as appropriate, or get in touch with me or Dave, and we'll help in any way that we can. So have a marvelous Thursday all, and hope to see you at our next event, which again, we're going to be talking about early talent again. All the best.